The world had rotted long before I joined it. The king's fleur-de-lis still bloomed above the land in golden perpetuity, but its roots had long since blackened from neglect. My ancestral home, Château de Morainville, perched like an eagle atop the famed white cliffs of Normandy overlooking La Manche, what the English call the Channel. But if my ancestors had ever used the château's turrets to keep watch over the fisher folk of Morainville, their vigilance had ended long ago. My parents, Comte Gaston de Morainville and Comtesse Arlie, lived in Versailles, alternating between their own hôtel particulier and their apartment in the royal château. My father served as the royal falconer, a position that was almost entirely ceremonial. There had never been an aviary of hunting birds in Versailles. But he helped to organize the king's many hunting expeditions, while my mother had many domestic duties as dame de compagnie to the queen. The two of them came home for less than 6 weeks a year in the hunting season to make use of the chateau's park full of deer and feathered game. The rest of the time, the chateau lay dormant except for the staff, a crumbling toe-hold in the slipping grasp of royal reign. My father was nearly 30 when he married 19-year-old Aurélie de Clécy. His title dated to the 14th century reign of Philip VI, and he was a hero of wars in exotic locales. But his father's debts had also left him in want of a wealthy wife. My mother came endowed with both fortune and prestige. Her grandfather had been widowed young and subsequently took holy orders, so by the time my mother came out to society, she was renowned as the granddaughter of the Archbishop of Rouen. One dance with Aurélie was all the encouragement my father needed to accept both her dowry and her womb as the stones with which he would fortify the de Morainville succession. Only a year after their marriage, my mother gave birth to their first stillborn son. 11 months later, the longed-for heir to the Comte, my brother Armand Philippe Gaston, took his first breaths, and 6 months after that took his last. My mother was already pregnant again, and the shock of Armand's death brought on a miscarriage. In the spring of 1771, when my mother discovered she was pregnant for the 4th time, she wept into my father's indifferent arms. But the baby grew, and when my parents returned to Morainville for the fall, they threw open the chateau for a hunting party that would last until the birth. I tried to imagine it, those rooms that I only ever knew as museums, the parlors with their clawfoot chairs and gilt-framed mirrors covered in sheets to keep off the dust, suddenly ablaze with life, the crystal chandeliers not only cleaned but lit,